Get ready to explore the dark side of kayaking as we reveal 5 harrowing tales of tragedy on the water. From lakes to rivers, these stories expose the shocking realities of kayaking gone wrong. Join us as we navigate through the chilling details of the most disturbing kayaker deaths of all time. In the small town of Ottosdal, South Africa, Hendrik Hendry Coetzee grew up with a wild streak. He wasn't one for sitting still. The outdoors called to him like a siren. Even as a kid, he'd sneak out to explore the countryside, climbing trees and racing through the fields with a grin plastered on his face. His love for adventure only grew as he got older. By the time he was in high school and Centurion, he was already an avid kayaker. There was something about the rush of the water, the thrill of navigating rapids, that set his soul on fire. He'd spend hours on the river, honing his skills, pushing himself to go faster, farther, and harder. As an adult, Coetzee was well known for his expertise in paddling. He had navigated some of the toughest rivers, constantly seeking new challenges for his next adrenaline rush. However, there was still one river he had yet to master, the Lukuga River in Africa, which he was eager to conquer. And so in late 2010, Coetzee set out on what would be his final expedition. Joined by his fellow kayakers Ben Stooksbury and Chris Korbulik, he went on a trip into the unknown, determined to go past the wild waters of the Congo. Their adventure began like any other, with excitement and anticipation bubbling in the air. The trio paddled downstream, their kayaks slicing through the water with precision and grace. But as they delved deeper into the jungle, the mood shifted. The air grew thick with tension, the silence broken only by the distant roar of the rapids. It was December 7th when tragedy struck. As they navigated a particularly treacherous stretch of the river, a massive crocodile lurched out of the water, its jaws snapping shut around Coetzee's kayak. In an instant, he was gone, dragged beneath the surface by the relentless beast. Stooksbury and Korbulik could only watch in horror and shock as their friend disappeared from view. They paddled furiously, searching for any sign of Coetzee, but it was no use. The crocodile had hold of him, dragging him into the water and leaving nothing behind but an empty kayak drifting in the current. The days that followed were a blur of grief and disbelief. Coetzee's family and friends struggled to come to terms with the loss of their beloved adventurer. Marie Neiman, his mother, spoke of her son with a mixture of pride and sorrow, recounting tales of his daring exploits and infectious enthusiasm. But amidst the pain, there were also questions. What if Coetzee had chosen a different path? What if they had never gone to Africa? The answers eluded them, lost in the vastness of the jungle and the depths of the river. Coetzee may be gone, but his life will forever be celebrated by the people who cherished him the most. It was a crisp December morning when Tobias Hamer, a 23-year-old teacher from Gloucester, set out for a kayaking adventure on the River Dart in Devon. Tobias, known to his friends as Toby, was an experienced kayaker with a passion for exploring the great outdoors. He had recently relocated to Dorset, where he taught science and outdoor activities at Milton Abbey boarding school. Despite his young age, Toby had already amassed a wealth of experience going through whitewater rapids and was eager to test his skills on the challenging waters of the River Dart. Joined by a group of fellow kayakers, Toby went on what was meant to be an exhilarating journey down the river's notorious stretch known as the Mad Mile. The group, consisting of 7 individuals, shared Toby's enthusiasm for adventure and were excited to tackle the rapids together. Little did they know, however, that tragedy awaited them just around the bend. As they navigated the twists and turns of the river, disaster struck when Toby's kayak became ensnared by a fallen tree, trapping him underwater. Despite the efforts of his companions, who risked their own lives in over 20 attempts to free him, Toby remained trapped beneath the surface, the swift current making rescue efforts increasingly challenging. Emergency services were called to the scene quickly, but the dangerous conditions of the river made their rescue efforts difficult. Toby, who was trapped for hours, ultimately died from exposure to the harsh elements. The news of Toby's death shocked the community, leaving his friends, family, and colleagues in mourning. Described as a young man with a zest for life, Toby's passing left a void that could never be filled. His students at Milton Abbey Boarding School were particularly devastated by the loss of their beloved teacher, whose passion for outdoor activities had inspired many of them to embrace the wonders of nature. As the investigation into his death concluded, ruling it a tragic accident with no one to blame, Toby's memory lived on as a reminder of the inherent dangers that lurk in the wild. Though his life was cut short far too soon, Toby's memories will forever live on in the hearts and minds of his family, friends, and students. What if Toby had chosen a different path that day? What if the fallen tree had been cleared before their excursion? These questions lingered in the minds of those who knew and loved Toby, serving as a reminder of the importance of cherishing every moment. In the beautiful landscape of Sentosa, a tragic story unfolded on a seemingly peaceful Sunday morning. It was here that Chu Jiatian, a 33-year-old entrepreneur and former nurse, went on a kayaking trip with two companions, drawn by the allure of adventure and the promise of exploration. Jiatian's journey began long before she set foot on a kayak, rooted in her upbringing and her unwavering spirit. Born and raised in Singapore, she was a child of the city, but her heart belonged to the great outdoors. From a young age, she found peace and relaxation in nature's embrace, seeking refuge from the hustle and bustle of urban life in the quiet serenity of the wilderness. As she grew older, Jiatian's love for adventure only deepened, leading her to pursue a career in nursing, where she found fulfillment in caring for others. But it was her entrepreneurial spirit that truly set her apart, driving her to pursue her passions and carve out a path of her own. In 2014, inspired by her love for the environment and her desire to make a difference, Jiatian founded Rough Beauty, a boutique specializing in natural, handcrafted bath and body products. With a commitment to sustainability and a dedication to quality, she poured her heart and soul into her business, creating products that reflected her values and her vision for a better world. But Jiatian's journey was not without its challenges. As a young entrepreneur navigating the competitive landscape of the business world, she faced countless obstacles and setbacks. Yet with grit and determination, she persevered, turning her dreams into reality and building a thriving business from the ground up. By 2016, Rough Beauty was gaining momentum, and Jiatian made the decision to commit to it full-time, leaving behind her career in nursing to pursue her passion with dedication. Her hard work paid off, and soon her products were garnering widespread acclaim for their rustic simplicity, exceptional quality, and commitment to sustainability. But for Jiatian, success was never just about the bottom line. It was about making a difference, about leaving a legacy that would endure long after she was gone. That's why she was not only a businesswoman, but also a philanthropist, using her platform and her influence to give back to the community and support causes close to her heart. One such cause was Toa Payoh North Cats, a project dedicated to feeding and caring for stray cats in Singapore. From the moment she learned of the project, Jiatian knew she had to get involved, donating generously and using her business to raise funds for the cause. Her kindness and generosity knew no bounds, and those who knew her were quick to sing her praises. To her friends and family, she was a beacon of light in a world too often shrouded in darkness, a source of inspiration and hope in times of uncertainty. But it was her humility and her down-to-earth nature that truly set her apart. Despite her success, Jiatian remained humble and grounded, never letting fame or fortune go to her head. She was the kind of person who would give you the shirt off her back if you needed it, who would go out of her way to help a stranger in need. And so, on that tragic Sunday morning, As Gia set out on her kayaking expedition with two companions by her side, she did so with the same spirit of adventure and determination that had carried her through life. Little did she know that this ordinary outing would soon turn into a nightmare beyond imagination. As they paddled away from the shore, the morning sunlight reflected off the water, creating a peaceful scene that hid the dangers below. Giatian's companions, drawn by the promise of adventure, followed her lead as they went further into the unknown. But as they navigated through the waters off Sentosa, they found themselves facing a dangerous challenge. In an area where the currents danced with the stillness of the sea, danger lurked just beneath the surface, waiting to ensnare the unsuspecting. Suddenly, disaster struck. One of Giatian's companions found themselves in distress as their kayak tipped over amidst the unforgiving currents. Without hesitation, Giatian sprang into action, her compassionate heart driving her to aid her friend in their time of need. With courage and determination, she reached out to lend a helping hand, unaware of the treacherous currents that awaited her. But as she attempted to help her companion, tragedy unfolded in the blink of an eye. Caught in the merciless grip of the currents, Giatian was swept away, her efforts overshadowed by the relentless force of the water. Despite the frantic attempts of her companions and the swift response of the authorities, she disappeared beneath the waves, leaving behind only her belongings and a sense of disbelief in her wake. The Singapore Civil Defense Force discovered her body near Sentosa at around 3 p.m. on Tuesday. As news of the tragedy spread, shock and sorrow gripped the hearts of those who knew Giatian. Friends, family, and strangers alike were left to grapple with the sudden loss of a woman whose presence had touched so many lives. In the days that followed, tributes poured in from far and wide, honoring the memory of a woman whose life had been tragically cut short. From heartfelt condolences to fond memories shared, Giatian's impact on those around her was undeniable. One couldn't help but wonder, what if things had been different? What if she had returned safely from her kayaking trip? Some questions have no answers, and some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved. It was a typical summer day in Juneau, Alaska, when 43-year-old Paul Jose Rodriguez Jr. decided to go on a kayaking adventure on Mendenhall Lake. Rodriguez, known for his love of the outdoors and his adventurous spirit, often spent his free time exploring the natural wonders of the Alaskan wilderness. Paul was a man of many passions. Born and raised in Juneau, Alaska, he had always felt a deep connection to the beauty of his home state. From a young age, Rodriguez found solace in the great outdoors, spending his weekends hiking through the forests and fishing in the crystal-clear waters of Mendenhall Lake. As he grew older, Rodriguez's love for nature only intensified. He became an avid kayaker, spending countless hours paddling through the icy waters of Alaska's glacial lakes. With his GoPro camera always at the ready, Rodriguez documented his adventures, capturing the breathtaking beauty of the Alaskan landscape for all to see. But despite his love for adventure, Rodriguez was also a devoted family man. He adored his teenage son, Jaden Rodriguez, and cherished every moment they spent together. Whether they were fishing on the lake or exploring the trails of Mendenhall Glacier, Rodriguez and his son shared a bond that was unbreakable. On July 11, 2023, Rodriguez set out onto Mendenhall Lake, his kayak gliding smoothly over the serene waters. Little did he know this trip would end in tragedy. As he paddled further from shore, the currents from the nearby Mendenhall Glacier grew stronger, creating dangerous conditions beneath the surface of the lake. As Rodriguez navigated the icy waters, disaster struck. His kayak overturned, sending him plunging into the frigid depths below. Despite his best efforts to right himself, the powerful currents proved too much to overcome. In a cruel twist of fate, Rodriguez's GoPro camera, mounted on his helmet, captured every harrowing moment of his struggle against the relentless forces of nature. As the hours passed, Rodriguez's absence was noted by his loved ones. Concerned for his safety, they alerted the authorities, sparking a massive search and rescue operation. Helicopters buzzed overhead, searching the vast area of Mendenhall Lake for any sign of the missing kayaker. Trained sea dogs combed the shoreline, their keen senses tuned to detect any trace of Rodriguez's whereabouts. During the search, authorities recovered a camera that continued recording as Rodriguez's kayak overturned due to a strong current from the glacier, providing critical insights into the moments leading to his disappearance. Meanwhile, on the shores of Mendenhall Lake, his family and friends anxiously awaited news of his fate. His teenage son, Jaden, clung to hope, his heart heavy with worry for his father's safety. Rodriguez's loved ones described him as a kind-hearted man who had a passion for outdoor activities such as fishing, paddleboarding, and snowboarding. He was also a gifted photographer, capturing the beauty of nature in his stunning images. As the search continued into the night, hope began to fade. Despite the efforts of search and rescue teams, Rodriguez remained elusive. His family and friends grappled with the reality of his disappearance, their hearts heavy with grief. Days passed and still there was no sign of Rodriguez. The once bustling shores of Mendenhall Lake fell silent, a somber reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded on its tranquil waters. Despite their best efforts, authorities were unable to locate Rodriguez's body, leaving his loved ones with unanswered questions and a sense of profound loss. What if Rodriguez had taken extra precautions before venturing onto the lake? Would he still be here today? As the search for his body continues, his loved ones cling to hope, praying for closure and a chance to say goodbye to the man they cherished. But amidst the beauty of Mendenhall Lake, one question lingers, haunting those left behind. What if Rodriguez had never gone kayaking alone in the first place? Shannon Christie's life was one characterized by a spirit of adventure and a profound love for the great outdoors. Born and raised in the town of Greenville, South Carolina, Shannon spent her formative years surrounded by the majestic beauty of the Blue Ridge Mountains. From an early age, she developed a deep appreciation for nature, spending countless hours exploring the forests, rivers, and trails that crisscross the landscape. As Shannon grew older, her passion for outdoor exploration only intensified. She was drawn to the water, finding peace and excitement in the rushing currents of the region's rivers and streams. It wasn't long before she discovered kayaking, a sport that would come to define her in the years to come. With a natural talent and a fearless spirit, Shannon quickly established herself as a rising star in the world of whitewater paddling. She tackled some of the most challenging rapids in the Southeast with ease, earning the respect and admiration of her peers along the way. Her infectious enthusiasm and determination inspired those around her, fueling a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose within the tight-knit kayaking community. But for all her skill and prowess on the water, Shannon remained humble and grounded, always eager to learn and grow as a paddler. She sought out new challenges with a voracious appetite, constantly pushing herself to the limits of her abilities in pursuit of the next adrenaline-fueled adventure. It was this thirst for challenge that led Shannon to set her sights on the Great Falls Race, one of the most prestigious events in the world of whitewater kayaking. Held annually on the Potomac River in Maryland, the race drew competitors from across the country, all vying for glory on the dangerous rapids of the Great Falls. For Shannon, the race represented the ultimate test of skill and courage, a chance to prove herself on the national stage and cement her place among the sport's elite. With months of rigorous training behind her, she arrived at the race determined to give it her all and leave everything on the water. But tragedy struck on the morning of July 11, 2013, just days before the race was set to begin. As Shannon went on a final training run on the Great Falls, disaster struck in the blink of an eye. In a terrifying moment, her kayak overturned in the turbulent waters, casting her into the frothing rapids below. Witnesses watched in horror as Shannon fought desperately to stay afloat, her body battered and bruised by the strong force of the river. Despite her best efforts, she was quickly swept away by the churning currents, disappearing beneath the surface in a matter of seconds. For Shannon's friends and family, the news of her death sent shockwaves through the tight-knit kayaking community. They struggled to come to terms with the loss of a young woman whose light had burned so brightly, whose enthusiasm had touched so many lives in such profound ways. But amidst the grief, there was also a sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the time they had shared with Shannon, for the memories they had created together, and for the mark she had left on their hearts. And as they released flowers into the river in her honor, they knew that Shannon's life would live on in every ripple of the water, in every gust of wind, and in every beat of their hearts.